You said, why would you lose your soul? Give it all just to gain the world. I'm looking for a love that won't run out. Love that won't run out. I've been running back, you've been waiting there. It's like you've been here.
Tune, he's playing a tune.
All right, my friends. You guys are listening to LZ7.
Woo!
All the way from England. That's a country in Europe.
I love you have to explain that. That's so good.
Yeah.
It's where the Queen lives. The Queen lives there.
The Queen, right? Didn't you just lost the husband?
Yeah,
Is it sad?
man.
Is it sad for many people? Oh man.
Yeah, the whole country's in 2 weeks of mourning now.
Wow. Well, my condolences.
Yeah. It's hard. It's just, she fully loved Jesus and he loved Jesus, and they're going to meet again, but it's still difficult. 99 he was, and she's 95.
Wow.
So they were together 73 years.
That's longevity right there.
Madness. I think it's amazing.
Wow, that's so cool. Hey man, let me try to. Oh, there you go. I was changed. You didn't know, but I'm changing my view here. So now you're in the main screen. So LZ7, Lindz, how are you today?
I'm good, man. I'm slightly sunburnt because it's been really hot here, and I've just been out playing soccer, like a proper soccer match, and the sun was so hot, I didn't realise I was going to come out all red, and I'm literally sunburnt, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? April, man, I can't believe it. But I'm good. Besides that, I'm really good.
I don't understand it. How can you be sunburned? I thought it was always cloudy and rainy.
No. That's just the movies.
All right.
That's just what they tell you in the movies, and it's everything's little cottages, and it's quaint and it's cute. No. England's a great place, or Britain, whatever. Great Britain.
Nice.
Yeah,
are the beaches cold though?
They'd be cold now, but by sort of May, June, July, they'll be warming up. So there's a lot of surf because it's an island and we're right on the Atlantic, so there's big waves.
All right, because this is what happens here, man. I'm from Mexico, and the beaches in Mexico are amazing, but every time I come here, I realize the beaches here are so cold.
Really? Oh, because the water comes down from the north, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Comes down from like the Pacific all the way down, man.
So all the surfers, every time here at the beach, they always have the wetsuits. Yeah. Right, and that doesn't. I guess people wear them everywhere, but in Mexico, normally the water's way warmer.
Betho, trust me, man. I have to wear gloves. I have to wear a hood. I have to wear booties. I have to wear a full suit. I have to wear a 5.5mm suit because it's cold. It's cold.
That's fun. So you're a surfer, right? Among other things.
I love surfing. We go surfing every year for a family holiday.
All right.
And I've got a VW surf bug, so I love it. It's good
Ooh,
fun.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, let me tell you one story about buses, because here, those Volkswagen buses are pretty epic for surfers. So one day I'm driving by and my brother-in-law sees one, and he's like, "Hey, check that out! It's so cool. Can you?" And it had a sign for sale. So I call. He's like, "Call it so we can know how much it is." And I didn't know the culture. So I call and I'm like, "Hey, how much for the van?" It's like, "It's not a van. It's a bus." I'm like, no. The van that's parked there. It's a big van, like a Volkswagen. It's a bus. I'm like, okay, how much for that? It's like 10 grand or whatever. I'm like, okay. No. Never mind.
You fell at the first hurdle.
Yeah. So anyways, there's a whole culture to surfing and buses and whatnot.
I think that's international. That's here as well. They call it a VW bus. So I've got a 2009 VW. And I'm slowly doing it up and making it all like inside carpeted and insulated and good to go. It's really good fun.
That's cool. Yeah, in Mexico was a pretty big deal, but with the bugs. Remember, like the rounded cars? Yeah. Those are pretty big deal in Mexico, even though they're not produced anymore. But people do all kinds of crazy things with those. Lindz, so good to have you on the show.
It's good to be here.
I was listening to LZ7 for a few weeks now. I'm new to LZ7. I'm a little bit new. No, hate to say this, but I'm a little bit new to EDM.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, it's good music. I love it.
Oh,
So, but here's the thing. I mean, why EDM in a country where it's known for like Coldplay and the Beatles and I guess maybe the Spice Girls, right? But how do you find yourself in this type of music?
Yeah. So EDM, house music, dance music, a lot of it originated in the nightclubs in London and Manchester. And house music, there's a heritage over in Chicago where Chicago house was kicked off, and then that literally moved to Manchester as well, which is where I live now. So dance music has been at the kind of like forefront of all of our stuff, of our culture as well. So our festivals, dance festivals, the I guess the guys that you see like the Beatles and Coldplay and U2 and all those kind of guys, they're not EDM, but they're some of the biggest DJs in the world are British DJs. Calvin Harris, for one. And it's just got a real scene to it. Like there's a lot of people that are into it and it's really uplifting. So it's a really good way of kind of using the music as a euphoric sort of worship. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so it's like another way. It's another way of worshiping Jesus. And at the same time, like I'm an out and out evangelist. Like our mission statement in the band is to take the life-changing message of Jesus to young people through music. So if I go into a school and where we do lots of high school tours and I play Matt Redman or Chris Tomlin, it would. But if I put on EDM, everyone's like, what? This is, hang on, you're a church boy. What's this? And so we've kind of gone into lots of different genres. So we go into a bit of trap, a little bit of hip hop, but the whole kind of thing is like party music. Anything you can party to, anything you can that wants to you want to get up and dance and use your body to move about is our kind of vibe, and it builds a platform to tell millions of people about Jesus.
Wow, that's so cool, man. I love that approach, and well, congrats on what you're doing in these songs. They're amazing. And you mentioned the word church boy, and that's actually one of your songs too. And how did you end up? First of all, I mean, what's kind of like your journey knowing Christ or even calling yourself a church boy, even to the point where now you're utilizing this music as a tool of evangelism? Like how did you get there?
I grew up. My parents were Christians, and so I grew up with a kind of understanding. They'd go to church, and I'd go to church with them. And I got to a point where I must have been 15, 16, and I kind of switched off. And I think that happens to a lot of kids. They kind of, you either go 2 foot into the church and into it, and I was just really, really into sport, basketball, soccer, and all kinds of stuff. And I just put all my energy into that, and it kind of, the lifestyle that comes with the sort of jock, sporty lifestyle, just was at the time more attractive than the church lifestyle. And I was I was hanging out with older guys. I was playing for I was 15 playing for an under-19 team, so everyone was big. I was tall, but they were bigger, and we'd all go out afterwards, and I was the kid. But I got a taste of that lifestyle, and it kind of started a bit of a slippery slope. I was at university, and I went to university in America. I went to Illinois State University.
Wow.
To learn basketball, to play, to do sports science, which was my degree. But I always loved music, so I had these two loves, music and sport.
Wow.
I think they go hand in hand. And if I was always going to nightclubs in the UK, like the biggest nightclubs, 10,000 seater nightclubs, and absolutely loved dancing. And what the music would do to me is like that euphoric, whoa, yeah, like worship, but just in a different sense. And I got to a point where, like I said, my parents were Christians. My parents were, they were on the Billy Graham team in Europe. So they were like full on. They understood evangelism. They understood everything that was going on. And I came back from a big boys' holiday vacation in, how do you say it? We say Ibiza. Do you say Ibiza?
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 What's
Ibiza,
that?
Do you not know where that is? That's crazy. No way. So Ibiza is a Balearic island in Spain, and it's the dance island capital of the world.
Ah, okay. Ibiza.
So you have-
Ibiza?
Ibiza, yeah.
Okay. I've
So you
heard,
have-
but I mean, I have no idea. I've just heard the word.
Yeah. Well, they'd love you. You'd understand everything they're saying, just in a different Spanish accent. But it's where every party goer, if you're thinking of spring break, so if you went to Panama City Beach or Daytona Beach at spring break, Ibiza, the whole of the summer season is like that. So it's just clubs and massive clubs, super clubs, DJs. So I'd been on a holiday like that, and I came back and I turned up at a Christian festival, and obviously that lifestyle was over there, and I walked into the Christian festival and this band started to play that were based in Manchester that played similar stuff to what I'd been hearing. So I was like, what? This doesn't make sense. So I stood at the back and listened to the music, and the guy at the front stopped the music and preached the gospel. And I was on my knees down the front, giving my life back to Jesus.
Wow.
Because I've been living this way, and the music did to me exactly what I do with young people now. So I was kind of born again into being I call it a musicianary, like a musician that is an evangelist. And
yeah.
I was the first. It happened to me first, so I know firsthand what it feels like. So LZ7 is birthed out of that response into, we're seeing 90+% responses at our shows. We'll preach the gospel, and 90% of the audience will respond and put their hand up and say, I want to know Jesus. And these are kids that do not know Jesus. In England, it's very different to the States. We don't have, it's just very, very different. You don't have it in school. It's not been handed down. So it's not that kids don't want to know Jesus. They just don't know him. So they think it's some kind of, mystical character that happens at Easter and Christmas. But we're in this opportunity now where we can use the music as a platform to reach them. And it came out of me responding to a similar thing back in the day when I became a Christian.
Wow, man. Lindz, great story. Great story. Even the connection, with your parents being a part of the Billy Graham in Europe, that's crazy. And here in America, some of the ideas that I've been hearing a lot lately, it's like, for example, this word deconstruction, and, kids are turning away from the faith or things like that. And I mean, needless to say, this is America, right? So if it's happening here, they're saying, some people I've talked to, even pastors from England, are saying, hey, that happened 20 years ago here in England, I mean, so it's kind of interesting, the relationship between what you're doing and the situation of England being a place where it was kind of like known as the epitome of Christianity in a sense, right? I mean, massive revival movements came from there, and here in America too. But at the same time, I feel like not all hope is ever lost. And, I want to talk about a little bit about what hope means. And I know you have a song called Only Hope. And I know it's kind of a little bit related to the whole COVID pandemic. What can you tell the audience how have you experienced hope, or what is hope for those who have experienced, hardship or struggle, or have faced the pandemic in a way that's real? I don't know if maybe emotionally, with family, with disease. What is hope?
Is this being filmed as a podcast, or is it just vocal?
It's been filmed.
Oh yeah, great. Okay, so in lockdown, I started a lads group, a blokes. How do you say it? A men's group, and we'd meet every Saturday, and we'd just hang out and chat and pray and talk with each other, and just from all over the country, all over the UK, all over the world. In fact, people in Nashville would dial in, and one of our boys in lockdown developed a serious stomach cancer, and so he's just gone in now to have it all cut out, and he's clear of cancer. But he's a real fighter. But he's a chaplain in a school, and he has to do sign language, so he signs for deaf kids. And he said hope is this. He said hope is an intrinsic feeling here, and in sign language it's described like that.
Wow. Hope
is a fist that comes forward like this. And he said it's an intrinsic feeling that something good is going to happen around the corner. Now, I was watching him do it, and I was like, but when you couple hope with faith, you become you got like a double combo. You become like a game changer. Like if faith comes from here, hope is something good's going to happen around the corner. But faith in the Bible is being sure of what you hope for and certain of what you do not see. So when you couple hope and faith, that becomes unstoppable. Like that becomes something you hold on to faith, because there's so much more to live for. There's a future, there's a destiny, there's heaven, there's life to the max here on earth. But it's coupled with this word hope, and something good's going to happen around the corner. So the two you become powerful. You become a history maker, a game changer, someone that can leave a legacy and a wake that other people follow, because they want to know what this hope and this faith is. So you're right. Only Hope is the podcast, and hope is that word, and hope has a name, and his name's Jesus. But when you couple that hope with faith in Jesus, and you put your faith in Jesus, that's when it changes the game. So yes, Pete, obviously it's been the toughest moment on the planet, hasn't it? For everybody, you know, for us in a music ministry, everything came to a halt. It just disappeared. And that word hope has meant so much to us. You know, something good is going to happen, but also I've got the faith to believe that Jesus is in control, and he's in charge, and whatever's coming at us, you know, whether it's death in the family. I lost one of my best mates in lockdown as well. He had a heart attack in the street, but obviously under corona restrictions, no one could see him. Wow. and he passed away. So I wrote a cover of Amazing Grace. I did an LZ7 cover version of it, just to express the hope we have in Jesus and the amazing grace. And to say to young people on our live streams, when you take those two things, you realize you're never alone. So whatever life throws at you, whatever the curveball, whatever the roller coaster sends you on through life, Jesus is with you in the driving seat, sat next to you. And some people, you know, a lot of kids ask me, well, then why can't he just sort it out and make it good? And I'm like, I don't really know. But what I do know is that I'd rather do it with him sat there than without him. And that's hope. That's hope. And then you couple it with faith.
Wow. That's so good. So you're saying you have a podcast too called Only Hope. And you were saying like you were filming in the attic, doing like live streams, and now you're moving to...
Now, this is where I am, in my attic. Look at all this. This is the insulation.
Insulation? That's so cool. And you said you're moving now to a warehouse and people are tuning in. What is that like? I mean, even to take the opportunity of you, I mean, you had a music ministry, right? So imagine all the people that, I mean, I've heard of many musicians who are like, man, this season is crazy because this is our livelihood, right? This is what we do for a living. But really to step out in hope and in faith that, hey, maybe this is a moment of doing things a little different, right? Even churches around the world started live streaming and doing like, you know, in front of the camera and Facebook lives, YouTube lives. What is that experience particularly been like for you? And how do you connect, you know, through something that could seem like, man, I'm just seeing a guy on the screen. How can you make it deeper than that?
Sure. If you go to a website, it's our live stream website. You can watch it. It's on demand. It's www.illuminate, as in light, illuminateyourcity.com/live stream. So if you put that up on your links somewhere, Bethel, that'd be amazing. But if you go and watch it, we've actually there's a church in Manchester that's been and bought an old Staples warehouse. So Staples warehouse, they blacked it out and put in 50, 60 foot LED screens. So we move these screens around and turn it into the closest thing you could get to a live show. So we put CO2 cannons in it. We put lasers. The next one, I'm going to have flames and fire. The only difference is there's no one in the room. So we sit 6 to 7 cameras that we work the camera. So we kind of like, you know, working at it, rapping at it, singing at it, and then you bob over to the next one, and it's just creating this live show that when someone's watching it, they feel like they're in the room. Wow. That was the closest thing I could do. But all of our high school tours are called Illuminate, which means to light. Our ministry name is Light. Our record label is called Light Music. LZ7's, our first single was called This Little Light of Mine, so it's all around light, shining a light in a dark world. So Illuminate Live is the live stream. Illuminate Online is a bunch of schools lessons that we've sent to all of our schools that we've worked in for them to use it. And they're signposted to the Illuminate Live. So they can all come and watch a live show as if we were in their school. So our normal weeks will be taken up with recording and writing music, writing discipleship resources, but also going into high schools. And we'll do five schools in 5 days and a gig at the end to 1,500 kids or 1,000 kids, and then preach the gospel and then have the local church work with us to disciple these kids. Now we're growing that into a big festival, and Illuminate Live is like the online version of the festival. So all these kids are now logging on online. So you're getting emojis popping up, and I'm telling people to respond with a prayer emoji or a heart to say that they're responding to Jesus. So there's a fly in them. Say they're responding to Jesus. And then we'll flood the stream with all of our discipleship resources. One of them's called the AAA Pass. So it's www.theaapass.com. So when a kid comes to a show, we give them literally round their neck a AAA pass. It says access all areas, and it's got all the instructions of how they log onto the site. And it's us guys in LZ7 taking them through their first steps of faith. So we were almost already geared for it. We just had to start the events. So everything we did was online anyway. As in, once we'd left physically left. So let's say we did a tour in London or Brighton. Once we'd left, we'd leave the church with all of these resources that were online. Now we needed a gateway to get to that. And that was Illuminate Live, the live streams. When I first started up here, I called it cabin fever because I was stuck in my cabin. And I was like, I'm just going to DJ and just sing a load of songs. And then I noticed there was a lot of traction. Like people were turning up and people wanted to and sharing the stream. And then, you know, we did a Christmas one and 2,800 kids, young people turned up to watch online. And, you know, if I had 2,800 people turn up to a show, I'd be like, wow, that's amazing. So it's working, it's developed, and it's utilizing all of the, you know, Facebook networks and Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff to, you know, all things to all people that you might save some, and inviting them to these events. So it's been a real journey. We've been releasing lots of music as we go. So there's content coming out, live versions of stuff and acoustic versions, as well as these Illuminate events that have just kicked off. So, I mean, I've loved it and I've hated it all at the same time. I've loved seeing kids respond. I've loved seeing people come to know Jesus, but I hate not having them in the room. Yeah. Like, you don't get the energy that comes back. You know, when you're giving everything you got, you don't get it back. You can't. It's like doing 50% of a live show. It's really weird. But,
yeah. I could imagine. I watch one of my favorite bands here in the US. It's Switchfoot, and they've been doing live streams actually every month. So I watch with my boy. My boy's 11 years old. So we sit and watch on our couch, and I can almost. I mean, we're the guys on the other side, right? So to your point, like, I wonder, you know, if John Foreman and the guys that are in this band are there and they can see the emojis and the response and everything. And it's almost like they cannot see us sitting on the couch being like, yeah, you know, like rocking out. But we actually do. That's the fun part, that we're on the couch and my son and me like are with our arms up and we're singing. So it's it's pretty cool. But yeah, I would totally see how there's that for the artists that know themselves, like that part missing where like, I still miss that connection. But no, I guess also props to you, because from those of us, right, from our end, the guys that are sitting on the couch, it's super hopeful. It's helpful. It's a great resource. In a sense, it brings community. It brings us together in a time of a lot of struggle for many people, to say the least. Yeah,
it's been tough, it's been weird, and it's been great. And there are certain things that I will definitely take into the next season, and there are certain things that I'll just go, I'm never doing that again. I never want to have to do that again to an empty space. That's ridiculous. But hey, it is what it is, man.
Hopefully one day we'll all be in the same room, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, so good. Well, I have two questions as you were talking. Well, one, because you're in this ministry really to younger people. One of the first questions would be, what are like the typical struggles, or I don't know if there's anything typical to youth, but what are some of the most surprising struggles that you have encountered with younger people?
Yeah. So when we do our school stuff, I've developed an online mental health resource called I'm Possible, and it's a play on the word impossible. So if you go to impossible.uk.com, it's a 10-step self-help about mental health. But, you know, obviously Jesus is the best mental health provider, but it's talking about self-harm, suicide, depression, low mood, anxiety, eating disorders. It goes all the way through the spectrum, because what we see in school is, we start touching on these subjects in school lessons. The music presents the whole thing, but then we'll talk about, stories and testimonies in between. And kids will come up and hand blades like this to me.
Wow.
In school. I've only got this because I've been cutting something out, don't worry. But they'll hand me a blade and just say, I'm choosing not to self-harm anymore. And I'm always like, wow. And then, we have the opportunity to get the pastoral care from the school involved so they can help them. And then we'll get suicide notes handed in saying, I'm not committing suicide this weekend. Thank you so much for telling me about life and hope in Jesus. And there's been some incredible stories. And, one girl, this was in New Zealand, she handed in 160 pills to kill herself and 2 blades, and then her whole arms were just full. And we led her to Jesus. And then 3 years later, we went back to a school, and we'd lost contact with her, but we went back into the school, and there was this lad on the front row, couldn't speak, couldn't look me in the eyes. His depression was killing him. And I gave him a free ticket to the show. And as I'm talking to him, the girl had perfect blonde hair, blue eyes. She looks up and she says, Lindz, do you remember me? I was like, no. And she said, it's Caitlin. And I'm like, who's Caitlin? And I'm racking my brain. And she says, as I walk away to get some more, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're the girl that gave us all those pills. You used to have spiky red hair. And you're her. And she goes, yeah, you came in my school 3 years ago and saved my life. She said, I'm in church. Da-da. And I was like, oh, she had her arm around the boy. I said, so you're with your boyfriend now? And she said, no, Lindz, don't get it twisted. He's in year 10. I'm in year 13, so I'm a senior. I'm part of the pastoral care team that's now taking the year 10s through the same stuff that I went through when I was in year 10. So she had flipped from being part of the problem to being part of the change, even though, and she said, it's the first time I've worn a T-shirt because all my scars have healed up.
Wow.
Oh, Betho, I bawled. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I was just, such a moving moment that God would use funny lads like us who do EDM to reach the lost, the last, and the least. So there's lots of stories like that come out.
Yeah, man, great story, and thank you for sharing. So impactful. And man, I want to talk about this topic. Maybe because you're in the music industry, or I think that's a good word. You're somewhat familiar. But, with this whole thing, I was talking to you about kind of like the deconstruction and post-Christendom, things like that. Yeah. There's this word, man, that it's kind of weird, but it's actually not one word, but it's a compound word, like high-profile Christians. Yeah. High-profile Christians. Like, first of all, like, what does that mean? But lately, I've been hearing sentences like, another high-profile Christian rejects the faith or turns away from the faith and things like that, right? I mean, sons of pastors themselves, musicians here in the U.S. And I don't know if in England, there's some that you might have heard of or know personally, but it brings me to this kind of like crazy thought or idea. But if those of you who are listening, and you, Lindz, if you watch the movie Trolls, I think it's a great movie, and it's kind of like related to like this, super hyped up party kingdom, right? With everyone's partying, like every day there's music, every day everyone's dancing, every day there's a celebration. And I was thinking about this idea that Queen Poppy, who is she's like the princess of the kingdom. And everybody looks up to her because she's always so cheerful. She's always so, life-giving, so positive, offering hope to the others. And the thing about it is like she's a leader. And when the opportunity comes, when she encounters the, kind of like that losing hope, losing faith moment, not only, everybody else is start to turn gray. Right, so like, is these characters who are like super colorful and whatnot, and then they start turning like dark, and it's all because if this is her leader, if this is the one like they look up to, and she's turning sad, she's turning gray, what other hope do they have? What is that? When you hear these stories of people turning away, what does that do to you who are, I mean, you're specifically, I almost think of you like a little bit like this like a leadership, kind of like Poppy had in her kingdom.
Yeah.
You have this amazing leadership, and it's like, man, what if you would end up being like the guy that says, man, I don't think I have this faith anymore, or I'm having this struggle. How do you wrestle with your own struggles, with your own moments of darkness?
Yeah. I think like just the examples of like pastors or other people that have dropped off and have maybe fallen. Such a hard thing to do, but you know, they've stumbled and something's happened, and they've done something that's not allowed them to be in the job that they're doing, or you know, they've had to resign from their post or whatever. I genuinely think that if you keep short accounts and with a lot of people, and you make sure that you're not always the tallest guy in the room. So the tallest guy in the room, you know, the biggest guy in the room, the biggest voice, the biggest mouthpiece, the biggest, you know, you can't always have people around you that are just yes men, because as soon as you do, the whole narcissistic, I've got this, I'm the man, like, I'm killing this. This is my game. I'm killing the game. As soon as that starts coming in, it's almost like the pride and the narcissism, and it leaves you, from what I can tell, it would leave you prone to no accountability. So you've got no one to talk to, and that's a dangerous place. You know, I think having someone on the end of the phone that you can go, hey, listen, bro, I'm really battling with this. Like my lads group, my men's group on a Saturday, they're our closest friends, and we can just be as honest and open as anything. But it's just that check in my spirit that they go, you thought about that, Lindz? You thought about maybe not saying that or doing this or whatever. And I think for a lot of the high profile guys that have fallen and taken a stumble, wouldn't have had that in their life. They wouldn't have had people that they would listen to, and even if they had questioned them, they would have gone, who are you to tell me that? When I fully believe that, you know, Jesus on Palm Sunday, when Jesus came in on a donkey, he took the low road, man. Yeah, and that's really hard. That's really hard as an artist, and as a, like, I'm a if you watch our shows, Betha, I'm a front man. So I front the thing, and I'm like Mr. Party guy. Like, if someone isn't enjoying themselves in the room, I will make you smile by the end of this gig. You are going to have some fun. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So, and I can feel it creep up on me when I'm like, I'm good at this. Like, this is, I'm the man. Like, and I'm not saying I am, but I'm just saying I can feel it kind of like it's fleshy and it's in my system, and it's kind of like it's there. And I feel like when that stuff rises up, there's a fly in the room again. When that stuff rises up,
that happens when you're in the attic.
Yeah, it does it. Exactly. Yeah, it happens when I'm in the attic. When that stuff happens, I have to really tell myself to go and talk to someone. And I've got, you know, we've got a great team around us, and I've got some we've been doing LZ7, sorry. In England it's LZ7. With you it's LZ7. But we've been doing LZ7 for 10, 12 years with the same people, same friends. We're just a bunch of friends that do it. So I might front it, but my tour manager is one of my closest mates who would definitely pull me up on anything that would be happening in lifestyle, and I would talk to him about everything. And I think those things are really, really important. So I'm not the biggest man in the room or the tallest guy that can't be accountable, because I make all the decisions about everything. I kind of think that's where the stumbling block happens. But when I definitely saw this was on just before COVID. We opened across 26 arenas in the UK and Europe for Jason Derulo. Do you know Jason Derulo? He's like a big secular mainstream artist. He lives in LA, and it would be like opening for Justin Bieber. All right. It was big. Sold out arenas. And his show is like super sexual, super, and you know, friends of mine here were like, why would you open for this guy? And I'm like, you watch when I put the gospel in the middle of this, watch what happens. And we got up on the stage and I did this whole spoken word about Jesus being a peacemaker and fighting for peace. And it wasn't because I thought we were particularly good, but it brought such a different spirit to the room that everybody got up and gave us a standing ovation at the end of our set. And we were the opening act.
Yeah.
which was amazing. So, people were logging on they were finding out about Jesus, logging on to the discipleship resources. But the big thing I noticed was backstage, there was a lot of stuff that as a kind of Christian artist, I'd be like, I need to steer clear. I need to take 2 steps away from this. So I said to Nathan, the guy that I was talking about, who's been looking, tour managing and looking after us, I said, we need to be on the bus at a certain time. Everybody just out. We're going to go. So we made it a rule at a certain time every night, back on the bus, in eye shot of everybody, so you could see where everybody was. And it was just accountability amongst friends. And I feel like that was the making of the tour for us. Wow. And people came to speak to us about, why do we pray before the show? Why do you keep mentioning Jesus in this spoken word? That started to come out. And that was the biggest privilege, to talk to people backstage about that stuff and speak into their lives. Jason's team and his crew and all that stuff, as well as the front end stuff, the backstage stuff. And that's when I really noticed the short levels of it, short accounts, like being really short with it, just, oh mate, help me out here. Quick chats, talking, praying together. That stuff has been a real help to us. And obviously very, very, very faithful, prayerful wives. You can never discount that. When you got a prayerful wife and she's there, my gosh, that changes the game for someone that's doing stuff like us, or prayerful husband, whichever way around it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so good. So what I'm hearing you say is, 1, like accountability, and 2, we need more low profile Christians.
Yeah,
right? People who are right. Oh man, that's amazing. Even how you said, Jesus came on a donkey, right? I mean, that's what people saw as like the highest moment. He's riding, on
a donkey.
Right? Wow, man, that's so cool. It's not just you. You were saying you have a team. Tell me a little bit about that collaboration, because I know even some of the songs are sung with other artists. Is that collaboration with different artists that you know of, or is that people in the band?
Yeah, there's different artists that we know in the UK, Christian guys, different artists from around the world as well. I do a lot of writing in LA and Portland, Oregon, up north of the States.
Nice.
And Nashville. So I come over to the States a lot. So I'm really good friends with people like the Newsboys and Toby Mac. And I do a lot of writing with a band called Family Force 5 that were big maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. And they were into their writing and stuff. So I write a lot in America and bring it back to the UK. But the team, we started in 2011. And it was 2 of us just talking to it. We were at another ministry at the time. And we were saying, music music creates a platform to be able to speak life, to speak Jesus. So put more music out into the mainstream. Go on tour with people like Bieber and Derulo and other guys, because that facilitates the gospel being preached in places that kids just wouldn't go to church. They'll go to an arena, but they wouldn't go to church. So why don't we take the Great Commission and go and make disciples of all nations? So that's where we started. So we started a little ministry called Light and Light Music. Now, everybody that works for Light, all of our money, royalties, CD sales, tours goes into Light to pay us to do it. It's a little bit like Coldplay. Coldplay do the same thing. All of their royalties go in, and Chris Martin doesn't make all the money. It all goes in to keep them alive as a band. We do a similar model, and it really works. So we're all close. We work together. We have an office in the centre of Manchester and a studio. We have a production manager, a video editing manager, schools liaison worker, 2 of them. And then each one of those guys is actually in the band as well. Wow. So they all have double roles.
Yeah.
So they'll do all these things. And then we've got a label manager. He's the bassist. So all of these are doubled up because, especially in COVID, we're not going to be working 99.9% of the time, because there's time where you're just like, right, we've got to wait for the next live stream. Let's get all the music done. And once it's done, So we all have different roles that work. I front it and shout and preach and raise money for it. And if there's, Illuminate tours coming, people will want a trust fund, give us money for it. And that stuff really works. And then I've got production managers and tour manager, and we all work full time for the same organization. It's a bit very similar. It's modeled on Billy Graham and his 5 friends. That's what it literally, the organization is modeled on that.
Wow, man, that's so cool. I love what you guys are doing. I love the the team that
No,
you
it's good, man.
have. I love the, even like you said, how even in a setting where there's a way different spirit, right? And
Yeah.
you know what you're about, you are focused, and you can bring a different type of spirit to
Yeah.
the one arena, right?
Yeah.
So how cool is that to experience? I feel like people don't know, but they know that there's something different. I have a little bit of experience. I was in a rock band, but in Spanish here in the, out of all places, right? I decided to come to the United States to do Spanish rock. So not a good idea. Not a good idea. But anyways, we got to open for a few acts here in the U.S., especially locally, and people that would come from Latin America, like big acts and whatnot. Even from Spain, some came, and we'd be like the opening act. And it's interesting to see that. We're playing rock, and the other band's playing rock, but people after the show would come and tell us, "Hey, there's something different about you guys."
There you go. That's it.
Right?
That's exactly it. And you're mixing with promoters and tour managers and managers and music directors, and the influence that you have just to say one word. When you go, yo, bro, that was amazing, bro. Hey, you know what I see on you? I can see you shine every time you play that guitar. And these guys are going, no one's ever spoken to me like that before. Yeah. Like everyone just smokes weed and sleeps with groupies here. What's going on? And then you get to share your faith. At one point, we walked past Derulo's bus, and the band was sat. It's a true story, and they were all sat in the front of the bus, not the front, the bay of the bus. And I walked past and I heard some music and I was like, what? So I went back and I put my head in the door, and they all sat there just like chilling. And I was like, hang on a minute, you're playing Hillsong Oceans. Wow. You're playing Hillsong's Oceans. Why are you playing that? I said, that's my world. And they're like, oh, bro, this is our reset button.
Wow.
When everything goes pear-shaped, we put on some Christian worship. And we reset with Oceans. And I was like, so anyway, that opened the floodgates of all of the Christian stuff. And we ended up holding hands, praying together at 2 a.m. in the morning, praying for their families, praying for their daughters, their kids. And just that opportunity was priceless alone.
So good, man. I love it. Sometimes you said in one of your songs, sometimes you need the dark just to see the light, right? That was my picture of England. I always thought, man, England is sad, but no, right? What?
Yeah, well then, obviously Jesus is smiling on us because it's always dark, so then the light has to pierce through.
It's obvious. It's a cool, man. This is totally unrelated, but I just kept thinking, Manchester. What's your team, man?
No, I'm originally from down south. I'm originally from near London, so I'm an Arsenal fan, which is a London team. But my son is born here, and he's in Manchester United. So I kind of have to follow United because he does.
That's
but
funny.
I'm an Arsenal fan, but I play football. I play a lot of soccer.
Yeah.
Cool. I've just come back. That's why I'm so sweaty. But when I came to America to live for university, I played soccer with in a Hispanic league.
Oh,
because, wow. And this is like maybe 15 years ago, but it was because the Hispanic leagues were so much better, and they could actually play football. So I went and played with loads of Mexicans and Colombians, and it was wicked. It was really good.
Yeah.
Different style of football, but good.
I love it, man. I'll tell you one of my first experiences doing an interview. This is funny because, well, anyway, it's a long story, but it was my first ever interview with a high-profile Christian, right? But low-profile, whatever. A musician who was a Christian. And it was Martin Smith from Delirious.
Oh, he's a really good friend of mine.
Really?
Yeah, he's a really good friend of mine.
Oh, man, so good. So it was one of my first interviews back in the days. This is like 15 years ago, like you said. I was so shy. I was nervous. And I was like, because he just came from playing at like a big arena. And I had my one tiny little camera. And it was a legit show because I was sending it to a show from Mexico, but then they broadcasted it around the world through Hispanic TV
wow.
network. But I remember just asking almost like silly questions, and that's why I feel like a little bit of me is like, man, I feel like I'm a little weird when I interview people because
No, you're great, man.
I
You're
can
really
go
good.
I can go from I don't know, something super serious to, hey man, what's your favorite soccer
Yeah,
team?
of course.
But
Yeah,
same
100%.
same question I asked him, and I remember, even to this day, it's like, I'm a Man United. It's like Man United.
Yeah. Well, he's actually. I think he might be a Brighton fan now because he moved to Brighton.
Oh wow,
So I see him at Brighton games, and they're in the Premier League.
nice.
So I see him. But yeah, he's such a good guy. He's a nice bloke, man. We got on really well, and him and his wife have been a real support to us because we adopted 2 kids, our family. So we call it a mosaic. So
Nice.
it's broken parts, but that make a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
And these 2, they're mixed race, so they're mixed Jamaican English.
Wow.
So I call them Jim English.
Oh, Jim English.
Jim English. So they've got my little boy Jack. He's got kind of red, not afro hair, but curly, and Carmelo skin. He's just a beautiful lad. And my daughter has got blonde afro hair, but with lighter skin. And that's what. Sometimes you need the dark just to see the light. That's about her life. So when you said that lyric, that's about my little Willow's life, about how dark it was at the beginning, but she saw the light, and God had a promise for her life, and it was always plan A. It's never plan B. Whether you're adopted, whether you're homegrown, we call them homegrown or chosen. So whether you're chosen or you're homegrown, it was always plan A for your life, that you would be with your family right now, adopted into it and adopted into God's family as well. So that's what we kind of talk about as a family. So yeah, anyway.
So you have 2 kids?
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
One,
I have 3.
one.
I have 3 kids, so
Wow.
it's amazing. It's a whole different world. And
I find myself sleeping more.
what? Why?
Like,
How?
I get to like 1 p.m. and one of them's 2. She'll go down for a little sleep, and I find myself in the corner just going, I'm just gonna have a little sleep. So I just have a little sleep for 5 minutes and wake up. Brilliant. I've learned it in lockdown. That's one thing I will take out of lockdown into normal life.
Wow. No, I haven't slept well ever since, man. It's been like 12 years. It's gone. It's a whole different world. Man,
Yeah.
I love just your heart. This conversation, I think, has been so helpful and life-giving. And this is where I want to go with my 2 last questions.
Go for it.
You have a song called Giant Killer, and I think it talks a little bit about family. And what do you think? I want you to send a message for a generation of the future. So think of your kids, think of my kids.
Yeah.
Send a message right now, 50 years into the future. What would you want to say today that you think it's going to resonate the same with people in 50 years from now?
Yeah, totally. So Giant Killer is written about my son Jack, and it's called Jack the Giant Killer. And when he first came to us, he was 10 months old, and someone pulled him out of church and said, I can see that Jack, you're a giant killer. Like, you're going to kill the giants of depression and oppression and anxiety and worry in people. You're going to kill them just by you carrying Jesus into those situations. So the reason Jack can be a giant killer and carry Jesus into those situations is because Jesus never changes. So 50 years from now, when the Bible says, I am the same today, yesterday and forever, they're talking about the same Jesus never changes. Whatever circumstances people are going through, whatever's happened to them, whatever's been said about them, whatever's been done to them, Jesus remains the same. And Jesus, the hope you find in Jesus is constant. The faith you find in Jesus is constant. That doesn't change. So if we're looking at 50 years time, and there's young people who are battling with all kinds of new gadgets and social media stuff that we've never even experienced, Jesus never changes. Now, it doesn't mean he's out of date. No, that's not what I'm saying. What it means is that the constant message of the cross, the constant message of what happened 2,000 years ago when he died and rose again, the constant message of he beat death and rose again, the constant message is that he left the Holy Spirit here on earth with us, the constant message, that's all constant. So he's the same. Doesn't change. So when I'm talking to Jack, I might be happy one day and angry the next day because he's done something, or I don't know, something's going wrong. Not angry, but you know what I mean, like in a different mood. I'm changeable. I do this, and Lucy, my wife, does this, but Jesus just doesn't change. It's this. And what doesn't change is his consistent love, his consistent grace, and his consistent forgiveness for everything. Loves you because he designed you, made you inside out, absolutely perfect. No one's ever had your fingerprints. No one has your fingerprints. No one ever will have your fingerprints, because you are customized one-off designs. That's how much he loved you. It's constant, because when he died on the cross, he died for all the sin that you've done, all the stuff you've said, all the stuff that's happened in the past. That doesn't change. That's what he died for. But he also allows you to walk into freedom, because when he beat death and he came back, he was like, I did it. I came back. I beat it. Like, the devil thought he'd won, but I stole the keys from hell and came back. And because of that, we now walk into freedom every single day, because he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. But it also says his mercy, that means his forgiveness, is new every morning. So every morning you wake up and you've messed it up the day before, there's still grace for that, and there's still forgiveness for it, because it doesn't change. It's consistent.
So good, man. Preach it, man. Preach it. 50 years into the future. If you are watching this 50 years from now, that would be 2071. Imagine. Yeah. I don't know if I'll be alive, but it'd be so awesome if you send us a message and send us your comments and
say, I heard this.
somebody send us a message. I don't know. It's gonna be fun. Yeah. All right, man. And Legends, this is where I want to end.
Yeah.
All your songs, like I was saying, they're just so upbeat. They're so hopeful and helpful. Yeah. And one of them that I loved among many songs that you have is Legends. And in the song you said, we'll be walking with legends on golden streets. And I think, for sure this is, it's talking about heaven, right? We'll be there. We'll be walking on golden streets. But I love this idea of legends, because even with my show, I'm trying to create almost like a club where you want to subscribe and you'll be the legend. And the idea of it is that you don't really know that you're a legend until time and history says that you became a legend, right?
Yeah.
But it's the daily habits, the daily things, almost like the details that you do on your regular day-to-day life that will make that happen. So if we want to walk in a way that we become legends, we should start now, right?
Yeah.
What does it mean for you to say we'll be walking with legends?
So when we wrote the song, I was picturing my children turning up to heaven's gates and the legends of the faith beckoning them in, saying, come and have a look at this. And Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King would be there holding their hands.
Wow.
And Moses would be over the other side going, what's up, Jack? Come. My boy's called Jack. Jack, come, let me show you the golden streets. And I heard this quote. So that's the walking with legends bit, is the heaven. It's, it's when we get there. It's the heaven part. But I heard this quote from a famous wartime prime minister from the UK. He was around at the same time as Roosevelt was in the US. He's called Winston Churchill. And he said, insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. So insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And I read that and I was like, I need to really get that. Insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. So that means if I carry on with my language the way that I'm speaking, nothing's going to change, of course. But I'm expecting different results, even though there's no change, there's no line of change, there's no difference between those two. And I just thought, legends, the legendary guys, they had this moment where they were like, nothing's going to be the same again. And that could have been the time they met Jesus. That could have been the time someone spoke to them, spoke a word over them, spoke life over them. But there must have been a moment where it suddenly went and it clicked and it went in a different direction, as in the insanity stopped and they started doing things differently. And the world tells us to live this certain way, you know, go out and party and get drunk and stick with girls and live that lifestyle. But nothing changes. That only leads to one place, and that one place is the place that you don't want to be without God. But that click, and the change in direction, that 180-degree turn, when you turn back to Jesus, that's when you start becoming a legend. Coupling that hope and faith, becoming a game changer. That's the sentiment of the song, really. And, you know, once you do that, you will be walking with legends when we get to heaven.
Awesome. Lindz, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show. Now Legends is playing underneath as we speak. Go check out LZ7. You're on Spotify, you're everywhere. Is there a specific place besides like all the links that you already gave me where you want to point people to?
Yeah, I mean, come join us on the live stream. I would love, I mean, there's a few guys from LA that jump on. So go to illuminateyourcity.com/live stream. I'd love to see you guys there. Come and meet us in the chat. Go and find us on Instagram. Our DMs are open. You can ask us questions. We answer them as much as we can. And you know, it's a safe place to kind of like just be honest about stuff. And then come and join us on Instagram. Come find us, follow us, get involved in the journey. And then maybe share some of the discipleship resources with people that you know need to know Jesus. It's the easiest thing I can say.
Love it. Lindz in Manchester,
Thank you,
England.
Woo!